This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show. This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is sponsored by Mountain Glass Arts. Since 2002, Mountain Glass has continued to bring you great customer service with a knowledgeable and friendly staff. As one of the nation's premier borosilicate glass supply companies, they strive to cover all your glass needs. For more information on their history, www.mountainglass.com. It is said that at the very moment the sun sets below the horizon, a flash of green light appears called the Green Flash. This unique occurrence happens daily, but only seen by a few. Green Flash Glass chose this name to symbolically represent the unique beauty, simplicity, and good feeling experienced when using their product. Unique to the experience at sunset. Uniquely relaxing. GreenFlashGlass.com. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 56. This is Jay Michael, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am happy to be here with y'all and also share the stories of myself and other artists out there, all of our successes and failures, trials and tribulations, experimentations, cuts, burns, all that fun stuff that we go through as glass artists. And also all kind of stuff about business and educational conversations as we sit here and grow as humans and artists and entrepreneurs and begin to design this amazing lifestyle that we have an opportunity to live because, again, we are artists, but we're artists in a field that allows us to make some money and run a business and have a shit ton of fun in the process. So thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're not an artist, if you're just a connoisseur or a shop owner or just like podcasts in general and want to know what it is about the glass world that we're into, again, thank you for tuning in. I hope I can fill you guys in on some insights to the industry of the glass world, whether it's functional glass, sculptural world, soft glass, furnace work, beadwork, what have you. All of the kind of gamut of art niches, I guess, in the world of glass. I'll be talking about and bringing on guests, along with other people outside the industry, doctors, lawyers, and what have you, and we will be getting back into our lawyer segment here very shortly. So today's segment and the show, again, we are going to be talking with my dude Shane Penn, who has a page on Instagram called @GlassKnowledge. If you guys want to follow him on there, and he's spreading the word about the world of glass and educating everybody out there. And we'll be covering segments of his page that he posts, and he's also posting featured artists that we have on the show, to give you guys a little bit more insight and background into them. And we are going to be talking about dichroic glass today. And dichroic glass is one of those funny materials that I love and hate at times as well, but it is pretty wild stuff. And we get into the background and history of that and the uses and functions and the origins and all that good stuff. So again, stoked to have you guys on board. And also, I wanted to, before we get into the glass knowledge segment, I wanted to kind of talk about a post that my friend Adrian goes by Glass Happy. She came on the show a couple months back and talked about her health issues. She's a great friend of mine. She's like a little sister to me, even though we're just about the same age. But anyways, she posted this thing about pricing our work. And as artists, pricing our work is probably one of the most difficult areas of contention in terms of the business of what we do, especially nowadays with the way prices are out there, you know, with the ballers making thousands of dollars for items that me personally, you know, it's not that I'm scared to price my work at that kind of price. It's just that I'm scared to price my work at that kind of price, you know, when it comes down to it. And my brother actually had tagged me in this post, and I'm glad he did because I don't get to see everybody's feed on my Instagram all the time. Especially lately with my phone being a piece of shit and not working properly. So anyways, so you guys can go follow Adrian at Glass Happy. But this post that she did, and this is huge, and I thought it was very important, so I wanted to share with you guys. And it basically was a post about pricing your artist. Pricing your work as an artist. And basically what it says, and I'm not really sure where she got this from, so I can't give credit to the repost. But she posted this thing, and it says, young artists or any artist that undersells themselves. Your prices are not entitled to be affordable to everyone. Your prices are what people need to cough up to afford you. Somewhere along the way, the prices for mass-produced posters become conflicted for original, fully rendered art by request. And they're not the same thing. One reflects the cost of printing pre-existing art on paper. The other reflects the cost of skill and labor. Don't compete with print prices when you're a single person cranking out art. You're a human being, not a printer. Don't price yourself like you're a machine, and don't let people treat you like you're a Control plus P shortcut. And Control P on the thing is Control Print, kind of thing. But it makes total sense. And, when you're thinking about pricing yourself out, there is a difference between a one-off original piece of art and then your production. And just kind of a teaser, the next episode coming up on 57, I have Carl Termini, who owns and runs Termini Tubes, and him and I talk about this whole part of this conversation and with his interview, and it's the whole idea of being an artist or a craftsman, and we are all, and as glass artists, it is a trade and also is a craft. But there's this controversy and kind of conflict that we all deal with as artists on the difference between a fine art and a craft. Now, if you're doing one-off single items that are just art, then obviously it's art. But as a business and an individual person who makes your own work, to be a production artist in a sense, it can be difficult at times to price that work out. Now, even selling one-offs, a lot of times when I do auctions and stuff, I don't set reserves on there because I want you all to be able to buy my work. And I do auctions as a way for those who can't afford necessarily to pay for my pieces to be able to get a piece at potentially at a lower price than what I would sell them for normally. But that being said, again, it's difficult to price our work. So what I try to do is when I price my work, I try to think about how much I need to make per hour to survive and pay my bills. And then I think about how much I need to make an hour to not only pay my bills, but to make a profit and actually pad my bank account. Because we're not just doing this for free. We all want to be successful. We all want to have nice things. We all want to be able to travel and support our families. First and foremost, it's our three main sources: food, shelter, and electricity, kind of thing. The minor bills. But then again, we want to be successful and create a profit. Now, if you have been listening to, we're covering the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and his whole perspective with his book is not just that you're working 4 hours a week. It's the idea that you increase your hourly wage. So for the longest time, I made sure myself personally that no matter what it was I was doing, I was making at least $30 an hour. Now, most jobs out there in the workforce, you make around $20, $10, $15 an hour. Now, of course, minimum wage, and people are trying to get McDonald's employees to make more than that, which I get, but it's kind of ridiculous. Still, that being said, as an artist and the amount of time that we put into our work, whether you've been doing this for a year or 15 years, you still have time that you've put into this. Myself personally, I've been doing this for almost 17 years. So if I look at myself as a tradesman or, say, an electrician now for 17 years, if I'm an electrician, electricians who have been doing their job for at least 15 years or more are making several $100s an hour. And what also got me thinking about this is the whole new Q-tip thing going around, which I think is funny, but also very creative and innovative. I've been making Q-tip jars for years for family members for Christmas presents, and I can tell them now that the Q-tip holders that they have might be quite valuable. But still, to go back to the whole idea of pricing your work, if you think about setting yourself an hourly wage, if you want to make $50 an hour, $100 an hour, $500 an hour, think about what it is you're making, divide that number of hourly wage you want to create into how many pieces of that particular said item you can make. So say you're making a really nice one-off, or not even a one-off, a production rig, or even if it's a freaking flower vase, and you can only make 2 an hour, but you want to make $100 an hour. That means that you need to price those at $50 a piece. Now, if you want to make $100 an hour profit, then you got to take into consideration the cost of materials, the cost of shipping that glass to you, your oxygen supply, your power, your overhead, all that stuff. So you may need to price your stuff at, say, $75 an item, which you're now sitting at $150 an hour, divide that, take that by 2, and you know what I'm saying. Do the math. But the idea is to basically sit down and really calculate, if your lifestyle is a certain way, how much do you need to make per hour to make that lifestyle happen? And that's how you can really price your stuff. And don't think about those who can't afford your work, because again, your work isn't going to be for everybody. Now, me personally, I have the attitude where I want everybody to be able to afford something of mine, which again is why I think the pendants right now are so awesome, because you can sell pendants at a reasonable price. Someone can afford to buy your work, and now they have some of your glass. But if they can't afford to spend $500 on a functional water pipe or even something super nice that you make, like if I'm making chandeliers and I'm selling for $20,000, not everybody can afford a $20,000 chandelier. But I might be able to make a $500 chandelier that people can afford. Just things to think about. So, again, I just wanted to post this out there. It's kind of long-winded and stuff, I know. But the whole idea is just think about when you're pricing your work out, don't think about the people buying your work. Think about what it is that you need to live the life you want to live and to survive based on where you are in your world and where you want to be. So, that being said, you guys have a beautiful day. Think about this shit. So anyways, guys, I love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy our show and segment today with our dude at Glass Knowledge, Shane Penn. And you guys have a beautiful weekend. Safe travels out there. And again, if you guys are in Fort Lauderdale, South Florida area, come check me out. I will be down there on the 15th this Sunday doing a demonstration at LSD Gallery, which you can follow them on Instagram at LSD Gallery. Go to my wiseguyradio.com page, subscribe to the newsletter, and we'll talk to you soon. Y'all take care. See ya.
Now it's time to share some glass knowledge with your host, J. Michael, and the creator of At Glass Knowledge on Instagram, Shane Penn.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the segment of Glass Knowledge with my boy Shane here, and today we are going to be discussing dichroic glass, which is one of the most technical, frustrating, beautiful types of materials out there that we use in glass, and it's got some pretty cool history and science behind it as well, and we are going to drop some knowledge on y'all. So what's going on, Shane?
Not much. Just enjoying this nice fall weather. Just got a brand new phone, which means Glass and Knowledge will soon be updated promptly with a few different posts that we've been working on as we've been backstocked since my phone has been completely destroyed. So it feels good to be back in the ring and things, but I'm excited to talk about some Dichro today.
Hell yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah, man, speaking of technology, I've been the same way. Podcasts aren't going up because of my fucking cell phone and stupid technology issues. It sucks.
I kid you not. Oh, I've been the same thing. I kid you not. The day after my phone breaks, shatter my phone screen, and suddenly my laptop is like giving me this whole cooling source malfunction error. So now I can't use my laptop until I get it fixed. And I have a buddy we can't do it till later this week. So I've been 2 weeks without a laptop and a computer, and luckily I have a very nice girlfriend who's been letting me borrow hers. So
yeah, I'm using my wife's laptop, so we're in the same boat.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, man. So the dichroic glass has been around for a long, long time. You're going to drop off some knowledge here for us in the history of it.
Yeah. So the little history of the dichro, it actually goes right back to like the 80s, and like dichroic glass refers to this glass substance that, and for those who haven't seen it, like the description would be, it's like this very sparkly metal glass. It looks like someone spilled like glitter into a tubing of like raw glass, and it came out just glittery and colorful. And it's really known for having really nice light hues. And what it was originally made for was made by NASA back in the 1980s during the space program like when we were like really pushing for that nice space program. They were researching filters for visors and like screens for the ship windows for like spaceships. And because the screens needed to be able to filter in certain wavelengths of light, the metal oxides that were layered on the glass allowed for different things to be layered in, so that basically we don't have the protection of the atmosphere out in space, so you need to protect from all the UV lights and all this other jazz. So they needed like certain specific metal filters to keep that out and to bounce the radiation out as well.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, when I first heard that, I was like, damn, that's cool. Because I love how science, just glass, there's so much science involved in glass in general, and then you have like this badass space-age technology coming in now, and that we get to use it. And I remember first seeing it, and I was blown away. And now you can see it used in all kind of architectural installations, all of the, like I know we have bus stops here that have the glass in the bus stops has a dichroic film on it, and it's gorgeous. At a fucking bus stop. I'm like, there's my tax dollars. Actually, we're doing something good. You know? No, I just gotta go cut some squares and start using the stuff.
Well, the way that it's produced is kind of cool as well. Like so it's made from the coloring is done by these ultra thin layers of metal oxides that are put on the glass. So it's basically fuming, because that's all fuming is as well. But it's done in a vacuum chamber with a vaporized electrobeam. So these metals are basically vaporized into a gas and then vacuumed on where they adhere to the surface. They condenses on the surfaces like these crystals, and the end products can have I think it was online I was reading, it can have anywhere between 50 and 200 layers sometimes for some of the upper ones by the end of the hole. It can be and it's only it ends up only being 300 nanometers thick, which is so tiny. That's that's microns. Yeah, it's incredibly thin, but that little thin just makes it 100% stable, and it will not crack from overworking too. It doesn't need to be done too much to it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Just kind of reading here on this article that on the Coatings by Sandberg website, the CBS site, it says, in recent history, we've created many more patterns, rainbows and images, which are put on glass, architectural glass, stained glass, blown glass, fused glass, castings, bevels, rods, stringers, gems, jewels, cabs, ceramics, glass block tiles, you name it. These guys are doing it. And it also is pretty cool, like they're saying with the images, because you can literally have your logo made into a small dichroic chip that you can then case in some clear and have it on the side of a piece, and it looks awesome.
Oh, absolutely. And you you can get them specifically made for you as well, where no one else can buy them through some of the companies as well. You can get a special contract with Glass Alchemy that says, hey, I want you to create this logo, but I don't want you to sell it to anyone else. And for a certain price, you can actually do that as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of you can really customize your work and keep it to yourself if you really want to, or you can let it out and let people grab at it too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and also now that you're getting tubes made, they can actually buy dichroic full tubes of glass, and it's it makes it easier to use. You can coat it and do a vac stack of clear over the top of it or what have you. But it's definitely one of those materials that isn't the easiest to use. It's really easy to actually burn out the fibers in the coating to where you lose the image in a sense of the different color layers. Because, for instance, you have red, yellow, green sometimes, and there's actually 3 layers of color in there, and depending on the lighting and the angles that you hold it at, brings out those colors. And it's gorgeous if it's done properly. But again, the idea is basically a lot of times when you buy dichroic and raw material, you get it in a sheet or you get them in strips. And the very edges of the sheet, or when you get a sheet, you have to cut your own strips to use it. You have a rough edge, and you have to be able to protect that edge. Otherwise, you get gray on the outside, which makes the frame of it basically would be gray, where then you have this really pretty color on the inside. So there's different ways of preheating it in your kiln. You can preheat it in your actual torch flame with a light propane flame.
Which just to soften up the edges on this side?
Yeah, it'll soften up, but it also will help protect the coating. When you get the glass, it's such a smooth texture, you can't see any of the fibers. And if you do a really light flame flash, will bring out the fibrous kind of look to the glass, which makes it easier also to tell what side of the glass actually has the coating on it. Because I know in the past there's been times where I go to coat my stringers or my strips of dichroic glass in black or blue, for so it's got a dark background, and I've actually coated the wrong side. And the idea is you want to be able to coat the side that has the dichro on there. So you go to heat it up and you're working it out, and all of a sudden you stretch it out and the whole thing's gray because just the dichroic is completely exposed, because it's got obviously a layer of clear on the other side, because it is clear glass that has a layer of dichro on there.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful.
That's to the clear glass between the 2 layers.
Yeah, and there's a way of being able to hold the strip at a right angle in the light where you can actually see a reflection in the side wall of the strip, even though it's only a millimeter and a half thick, depending on what you're getting, to where you can actually tell what side's the right side. A lot of times what I do, though, is I'll go ahead and flash a corner, and you can then tell because the coating comes to the surface, and you can really see. It gets kind of a scaly look to it. But that also helps to get the process of protecting the glass started. And ideally, it's when you use opals as well, you don't want to have it exposed in the flame at all, except for that initial heat up. Otherwise, you'll burn the shit out of it. But there's there's rainbow patterns you can get. There's 3 rainbow pattern. There's all kind of cool stuff you can get into. But my favorites, personally, I like to use is a red, silver, blue, and also an emerald or a jade green. And they really hold up to those of us like myself that work kind of hard and heavy on the glass. I'm sometimes agile and patient with what I'm working with, but because of my, not being so agile, for lack of a better term, I tend to kind of burn the stuff out if I'm not using the right glass. So, but there's all kind of cool stuff. Like our last segment we did was about inside outs and stuff, and typically in the inside out is how you pretty much use the glass, by laying it on the inside of a piece of tubing. So now you have, not only is the glass protected by a section of color, now you have a whole tube of glass wall that's protecting it from the heat as well. But there's no compatibility issues I've had. Only thing though, that you got to make sure when you do buy the glass that you make sure the company sending it to you is sending you the right COE. Because I've had Dichroic sent to me in a sample pack that was a 104 or 102 or whatever.
Oh, it's a soft glass COE.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm like,
what are you gonna do with that?
Yeah, and I'm like punting it up to it. I'm like, what the fuck? This is like not even working.
Oh, it's silly string in your hand.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was a mess. Thank God they were cool about it and they sent me a new sample pack of the right stuff. But lessons learned. So I'll put that out there.
I mean, you're going to get the sale out of you with the sample pack if it's the right one, so they might as well send it to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's I think one of the things to think about too, though, is that depending on your color, and like this, you would maybe hard to figure out, is that depending on the color you're getting of the dichro, it's the metal oxide or the metal that was used to get that color on there is different, and each of those metal oxides has a different melting and burn off point too. So some colors might burn out faster than others. Mm-hmm. And I think the metals go on, like titanium, chromium, aluminum, zirconium, magnesium, gold, silver, and any of the easiums really are layered on there in different layers for colors. So that's one thing to think about too. And the gold and silver, that might feel more common and might be a little easier because it's been fumed out before, or it's going to feel like fuming in that sense, like gold and silver fuming, because it's just gold and silver crystals particleized instead of burnt and flashed onto the glass.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. We were talking before with the show, and kind of, I'm actually, now that we've said it, I'm actually seeing more dichroic glass coming out on Instagram, like full tube sections and prep work and stuff. But it seems like with the way of the crushed opal and the current state of the popularity of the opal glass, that's kind of taken the place of dichroic glass. So I'm sure, like everything else, there's ebbs and flows with trends and what have you. But I
think the cool part about that is that where the crushed opal is pretty fancy, it's this whole new fancy style, and it's because it's opals, it's all sweet and awesome. There's some cool factor to it. It has a very beautiful luster to it. The opals do have a cool shine to it, but the result from the dichroic is very different. And I've actually seen a few instances where they've been mixed, where I've seen people using crushed opal on a piece, the same piece they've used dichroic with, and they really do blend well together. So I mean, while there's a lot of competition, I think you're right in that there are more pieces coming out with the dichro on it too, mm-hmm. and that a lot of these new colors can work harmoniously together. And realistically, you could prep crushed opal over dichro if you want, and there's a layer clear there. You could do it real well. You could do it, or you could do it into one of the UV reactive with dichro on the background and have the opals in there with the UV reactive. When you hit it with the UV light, all you're going to see is opals pop, or all you're going to see are the opals popping in the UV glass with the dichro disappearing in the background. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and it reminds me too, I know when I was first getting into the dichroic glass, I used a lot of light cobalt to coat the dichroic with, so it was actually more transparent. And then if you do if you're for inside outs, and then you do a nice gold and silver fuming in there, you really don't see the dichroic glass until the piece begins to change colors. And then when you get the gold and silver behind it, it actually helps to change the properties of the color changing aspect of the piece, and also gives you a different kind of look of the dichroic glass too. And a lot of my shop owners were like, well, this is dichroic, but I don't really see it. I'm like, well, put it behind a black cloth or something, and it really will pop out. Because traditionally, a lot of dichroic glass is put over more of an opaque color so that it really stands out. But I like to go against the grain and make it so it's transparent. So you have to actually use the piece to really see the dichroic really come out.
Absolutely. I mean, and that kind of shows that your I want to say your history of glass blending. That shows that you go back to the 90s, that late era, because that's when color changing pipes are so popular. That's the idea that after the use, the color, when you buy a piece, it has a life. It transforms when you use it. Yeah. And I think that mentality was really popular back then, and it's still kind of popular now. But I think it's starting to move away since the whole hard wall line work era is kind of in its midst. And there are still some cool artists doing some fumed, I don't say fuming work, but color changing work. Mm-hmm. But using dichro in that sense, that's a really ingenious idea. That's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah, it's something different. Makes you want to get back and do it some more. Especially after seeing all the new stuff out there, like that fume show they just had. It's pretty amazing. But again, going along with the whole rig industry, everything's scientific and clear because the users are really keeping their work clean. Where before, you go to your friend's house, they haven't cleaned their water pipe in 10 fucking years. It tastes like shit, or their pipe's been sitting there the same way. It looks like a freaking bag of garbage because it's got so much crap inside of it and it's clogged. oh, I want to see it change colors. I understand that, but clean your damn pipe.
Yeah, times are changing. People are pretty meticulous about it now. And I think it comes with the whole scientific idea of functionality over the art of it. And that's a balance that's always going to be preferential to whoever's buying. I have some friends who prefer these crazy artistic sculptural pipes, and yeah, they perk well, but is it scientifically perking? No way. And there's that whole balance there. And I think the big thing that's going on is I think we saw this big launch out into male fittings, and now we're moving right back to female fittings as the science is adjusting for it.
Yeah.
Now banger hangers and this whole movement is going on. The male joints are leaving because they're gross, they're ugly looking, while a female joint can be recessed. So that's always going to be the prettier option for most glass blowers. And I think the banger hangers are real popular now. That almost 90-degree angle with that pipe going in allows for that cool 90-degree hang, or adding on to something else, or a bowl if need be. So it allows for perfect conversion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier instead of having to go buy male-female conversion kits or male-male joint kits. And talking with Scar Glass in my last episode, we were kind of laughing about it. It went from the 18 millimeter, or 19 mil, whatever the hell it was at the time, and then it went to the 14 mil, then it went to 10 mils. Everybody's all about the 10 mil, and now it's kind of gone back to the 14, but now it's a female. And it's interesting, the evolution and the fact that we have to always evolve and change our shit as we're going along and pay attention to the trends. But at the same time, pay attention to the trends, but go against the grain too. Yeah, start the trend, become the trend.
I think it's really funny. I love seeing when a trend pops up and seeing all the artists' different styles and things. And that's with new colors too. I love when a new color's introduced on the scene, because suddenly there's an explosion of ideas because all these artists see it. Same with Dichro and all these other ideas, going back to what we were talking about. And I saw one this morning, the whole idea of the Quave banger hanger, and then I saw today it was the Sugar Cube banger, which is it's a square banger hanger with a square plunger. And I've seen plungers for concentrates and oils and things like that go all the way back to 4 or 5 years ago. That was one of the first methods I saw for people using using their dabs or oils or whatever they're using, and to see it suddenly reemerge back now in a new setting with something but it's all square shaped, just made me laugh. I'm it's all secular. People are coming to have similar ideas, and it's everyone's different take. But I think that's what makes this art and this whole industry beautiful, is we all have ideas and everyone's all creative and they're just pumped. So everyone's pushing.
Yeah, I agree.
That's where it should be. That's where we should always be. Everyone should be pushing forward.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you're not copying or biting. But fuck it, I heard a guy the other day say it's the whole imitate until you innovate, and you imitate. It's just thought that was a cool quote.
I mean, there's a lot of truth in that. Where if you're learning a new technique, there's a glass blower up here, up in northern Minnesota, who took a salt lesson a long time ago, back when salt was doing a lot of the more sculptural stuff and doing lessons on it. And he came out of Corning Glass, and he has some experience, and he does these salt shakers that have these really beautiful, creepy, this guy up here does these creepy salt shakers now that they reminisce of salt, but he really makes them his own, and they're very, very similar, but it's done in a similar medium form. And I think that's where you need to figure out that line. You can't just jack someone's style, but you can walk along with it and use that technique to do something your own.
Yeah, it's hard to see teeth and eyes and tongues without thinking about Z or salt, or that kind of whole thing. It's interesting. But hey, it's good though. It's good for, like you're saying, it's good for the industry. And with the dichroic glass, it's seeing a lot of these guys and gals that are out there that are innovating the new techniques and styles and sculptural work, and then incorporating the dichroic glass into that work. It's it's an explosion of just awesomeness.
What did I see the other day? I can't remember who the artist was, but I saw a Sherlock that was done with it was done in a wigwag style format. It was this beautiful line work, but it was all opaque and translucent colors, with one of the ends being two of them were an opaque with dichro in it, like you were saying. Mm-hmm. And it was this beautiful, just very delicate looking thick Sherlock. Yeah. Because it was so just this cool, all translucent look to it with that dichro in it. So I think there's always ways to push it further.
Yeah, and thinking about that too, one of the other ways of actually working dichroic glass is what's called a box build. And the idea is that you take a strip of glass and you cut them down into sections and squares, and you literally take a piece of tubing like some 12 mil or some 18 mil or even some 9.5 and flare it out, and then you build a box on that flare. So literally, it's like, you take a square and you just attach it to one edge of the flare. Then you take it and heat it up and attach another flare, or another edge to the flare. And before you know it, you have a 4-sided box. And then you can either put a blowpipe on the other on top of it to close it, or just take another square that fits and just completely cap it. And then you're left with these open 45-degree angled edges, so you have to go back in there with color or clear. But when you do that, when you build your box, if you do it in clear, it all comes together seamlessly and looks like a piece of dichroic tubing, somewhat seamlessly. Sometimes if you do it properly, you can do that. Or you can put color in there, and now you have a pattern you can work with of like stripes in between having the dichroic bands in there. And then on the squares that you decorated, you can also take that same concept and draw lines or a pattern behind the dichroic glass. So now you have a pattern that lays behind the dichroic. So now you can almost get into like basket weave techniques. Like there's all this other ways you can go about building out your sections and your tube pieces by building it up by making little squares. But first you have to prep it up, I know a lot of guys that'll take a piece of dichroic glass and do a pattern behind it and then get it hot as shit and then make a patty out of it and then take that patty and then stretch the patty out into a flat cane. And then you take your cane and you cut little strips and then you build your box out from there. So it kind of depends on how you want to go about it. But there's also, you can buy the glass, the dichroic glass already backed with color, which will save you some time too in the long run. So it's interesting, different ways of doing it.
I think it comes down to any idea, though, is that if you have it prepped for you, you lose less, I want to say personal creativity of it, but you have less say in your final result. While if you make it and stack it yourself, you kind of have say if you want it going this way, that way, what you want in between, what color on the background. So a little bit more time allows for a little bit more customization. I guess that's up to each artist.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like I said, dichroic glass is tricky stuff, but if you guys just go get a sample pack, Mountain Glass has a sample pack you can get from them, and they'll hook it up. You can get the samples, usually get 5 or 6 strips in a pack, and then just take that and fuck with it and add different colors to it. See which ones work best for you. You can really play with your heat base, with your kiln temperatures. Sometimes I'll take dichroic glass and throw it in my kiln for one cycle and then pull it out the next day and then actually use it. And by doing that, it runs through a heat cycle, which then brings all the fibers on the surface out, and you can see what side the dichroic's on, blah, blah, blah. Makes it somewhat easier to work with. But again, if it's in there too long, then you can burn it out. So just things to think about. But definitely get a sample pack, experiment and practice. And so
yeah, absolutely. So I got a question for you. So I mean, if the viewers out there or listeners did not know, last week we were talking about the Inside Out, and our senior over here made himself a beautiful little pipe with a nice little frog on it.
Yeah.
And he did first Inside Out work, and it was beautiful, man. It was super delicate, and it was very just nice and neat, and like the lizard looked perfect on it. I loved it.
Thanks, dude.
And are we going to see a little dichroic little work off you as well this week then?
Yeah, I think so. I got a bag of scraps at the shop, and I've been kind of contemplating about pulling that shit out and using it. So
hey, scraps are recycle, reduce, reuse, recycle, right?
Exactly. And actually, speaking of scraps, you can go on eBay and buy bags of dichroic scraps for like $30 for like a 5-pound bag of scraps. And what I use that for is for doing just like a basic pickup and making magnets for refrigerators, or using like for a cabinet on the side of a piece. And you just take whatever this raw section, square, it could be the shape of Africa, or whatever, and just get a hot patty of glass, pick it up on the patty, dichroic up so it's now encased by the clear, back with a little bit of color, make a cab out of it. You can throw a magnet on the back of that thing, or like I said, throw it on a piece, and now you have a cool. It doesn't give it any kind of like twisty shape. I mean, like, we can get into galaxy marbles. Like, there's all kind of different variations you can do into using the dichroic glass. Galaxy marbles especially are a lot of fun, but that's a whole different. I mean, I can go on for 3 days about how to do that. But it's just the experimentation process, and a really good way to learn how to work with dichroic glass is, like I just said, get a bag of scraps or a sample pack and just play with it, see what you can do with it. Stretch it out, pull it out, heat it up, mix it up, twist it, turn it, and see what you like. And I'll throw some pictures up on the show notes for this episode so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing with it.
Sounds good.
And then sell them on eBay for like $25, and you'll sell them like crazy.
Not a bad way to do it.
Hell
well,
yeah.
I think that's all I got time for today.
Likewise here, man. So hope you guys are enjoying this segment that we're doing. We're going to be now on a regular basis keeping these guys going now that Shane and I are back up and running with all of our technology issues.
Yeah,
and,
no kidding. Aiming to that. Knock on wood to keep it that way.
Yeah, shit, yeah. Yeah, it's hard to do smoke signals from south of the country to the north of the country. So,
well, until then, let us know some feedback out there. We love hearing it, and stopping by the Instagram page at Glass Knowledge, at Glass Knowledge, all one word, and join our little fun group. We're talking about stuff. Feel free to add your own input. We're always looking for some more knowledge. So come learn some knowledge or some drops of knowledge.
Hell yeah. Just go to that Instagram page on Dichroic Glass and leave a comment if you think you want to add anything else to this. And also any questions, comments, you can get a hold of me at info@wiseguyradio.com. That's info@wyzguiradio.com.
Perfect.
Hell
Jason, as always, thanks for having me. I really appreciate being on the show as always.
Absolutely, brother. Until next time, y'all take it easy, and thanks for hanging out with a little bit of Glass Knowledge. Peace. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show. If you have any questions, comments, or remarks, please leave them in the show notes page area where it says comments. We'll see you soon. Have a wise night.